A few days ago, my older sister called me. She was halfway laughing but also genuinely frustrated, knowing that I have spent my entire adult life working as a biomedical research scientist. She put me on the spot. What exactly have you guys been doing in those fancy laboratories? You always talk about huge progress, new breakthroughs, and amazing technology. But look at the world. First, COVID-19 shut down our lives for years. Now we are constantly hearing scary news about Ebola and Hantavirus outbreaks. Why can these tiny, ancient viruses still completely tank our modern world? It was a fair question, and honestly, it is one that millions of people are asking today. To a lot of people, it looks like science is losing the battle. We can land rovers on Mars, build artificial intelligence that writes poetry, and map the entire human genome. Yet, a microscopic blob of genetic material wrapped in protein can still lock us inside our homes and cause global panic. Why hasn't our massive scientific advances protected us from these old, terrifying pathogens? To understand what is happening, we have to look closely at the true nature of biology, how our modern world has changed, and how science actually operates. It turns out that fighting infectious diseases is not like building a bridge or fixing a machine. It is an endless biological arms race. And right now, human society is accidentally giving the microbes an edge. The current threat: getting to know our opponents. Before looking at the science, we must look at the actual threats making headlines. Ebola and Hantavirus. Both are dangerous, but they behave very differently. They are not new inventions, they are ancient survival experts. Ebola is a filovirus, meaning it looks like a long, twisted thread under a microscope. It is famous because it causes severe hemorrhagic fever, which can lead to internal and external bleeding. Ebola outbreaks usually start in remote villages, often when a human comes into contact with infected fruit bats or wild animals. The virus spreads from person to person through direct contact with bodily fluids. It is incredibly deadly, sometimes killing up to 90% of the people it infects. Because it kills so quickly and dramatically, it terrifies communities. Hantavirus is another story. It is a family of viruses carried primarily by rodents, like deer mice. Humans catch hantavirus not from other people, but by breathing in tiny airborne particles of rodent droppings, urine, or saliva, often when sweeping up an old, dusty cabin or barn. In the Americas, it causes hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, a severe respiratory disease where the lungs fill with fluid. It has a death rate of around 38%. Like Ebola, it hits hard and fast. A note on viral dynamics. The basic reproductive number, or R0, represents how many people an infected person will pass the virus to in a completely vulnerable population. While COVID-19 had a high R0, making it a global wildfire, Ebola has a lower R0 but a drastically higher mortality rate, changing how public health teams must respond. Why science seems helpless against old foes. If we know what these viruses are, why haven't we wiped them off the face of the earth? My sister assumed that since we have advanced medical tools, we should have a simple off switch for these diseases. There are three main reasons why it is not that simple. 1. The invisible shapeshifters. Evolutionary speed. Humans adapt slowly. It takes thousands of years for human biology to change significantly. Viruses, however, evolve at lightning speed. Every time a virus replicates inside a host cell, it makes copies of its genetic code. Viruses are notorious for making mistakes during this copying process. These mistakes are mutations. While most mutations do nothing or kill the virus, every once in a while, a mutation gives the virus a new advantage. It might help the virus stick to human cells better or hide from our immune system. Science creates a drug, but within a few years or even months, the virus can mutate, rendering the drug useless. We are running as fast as we can, but the viruses are constantly changing their locks. 2. The Stealthy Reservoirs. We successfully wiped out smallpox in 1980 because it only existed inside human beings. Once we vaccinated enough people, the virus had nowhere left to go and vanished. But Ebola and Hantavirus do not live primarily in humans. Their natural homes are wild animals, bats for Ebola and mice for Hantavirus. These animals are called reservoirs. The viruses have lived inside these species for thousands of years, without killing them. We cannot vaccinate every fruit bat in the African rainforest, nor can we eliminate every rodent on the planet. Therefore, even if we cure every single human patient today, the virus remains perfectly safe in the wild, waiting for the next human to cross its path. 3. The innovation paradox. It is a mistake to say scientific advances have done nothing. In fact, our progress is mind-blowing. During the 2014 Ebola outbreak, scientists developed a highly effective vaccine, Ervebo, in record time. We now have monoclonal antibody treatments that drastically lower Ebola's death rate if given early. For hantavirus, rapid diagnostic tests can identify the infection within hours instead of weeks. The science is working beautifully. The breakdown happens when we try to deliver that science to the real world. A perfect vaccine does no good if it sits in an ultra-cold freezer thousands of miles away from a bleeding patient in a village with no electricity. The real culprit: how modern life feeds microbes. The truth, I told my sister, is that viruses are not magically getting smarter on their own. Instead, human activity is paving a smooth highway for them to travel. We are living in a historical moment where human behavior perfectly matches viral strategies. Deforestation and climate change. As we cut down forests for timber, farming, and mining, we push deeper into wild ecosystems. We push down the natural barriers between humans and wild animals. When a logger cuts down a tree housing hundreds of fruit bats, those bats move closer to human fruit orchards. The chance of a virus spilling over from an animal to a human skyrockets. Global warming also changes where rodents and insects can live, bringing tropical diseases into new geographic areas. Global connectivity. Hundreds of years ago, if a traveler caught hantavirus or Ebola in a remote valley, the disease would likely burn out within that small community because travel was slow. Today, an infected person can board an airplane and travel across the globe in less than 24 hours, well before they show any symptoms. Our hyper-connected world means an outbreak anywhere is a threat everywhere. A blueprint for survival, what we must do. To handle this ongoing threat, we cannot just rely on scientists in lab coats. Defending humanity requires a coordinated effort across every level of society. What the world must do. 1. Strengthen global surveillance. We need an international radar system for diseases. Organizations like the World Health Organization, WHO, must be fully funded to spot unusual health patterns in remote areas immediately, before a local outbreak crosses borders. 2. Ensure equitable medicine. Wealthy nations must invest in building healthcare infrastructure, roads, and clean water systems in developing regions. If a virus can be contained and treated effectively at its source, the entire world stays safe. What the nation must do. 1. Fund continuous basic research. Governments must fund scientific research even when there is no active pandemic. Waiting for an outbreak to start funding a vaccine is like waiting for a fire to start before building a fire truck. 2. Protect public trust. National leadership must communicate clear, honest, and evidence-based information. When politics overrides science, public health completely collapses. What the community must do. 1. Support local health departments. Local clinics and health boards are our frontline soldiers. Communities must fund these systems so they have stockpiles of protective gear, training, and testing equipment. 2. Sanitation and environmental planning. Cities and towns must practice smart waste management to keep rodent populations controlled and design urban spaces that do not encroach recklessly into wildlife habitats. What you, as an individual, can do. 1. Practice media literacy. Do not share terrifying medical headlines without verifying them through trusted sources like the CDC or local health authorities. Panic spreads faster than any virus and causes massive harm. 2. Understand local risks. If you are cleaning out a dusty garage, shed, or cabin where mice might have lived, do not sweep dry dust into the air. Wet it down with disinfectant first to keep hantavirus particles from getting airborne. Wear gloves and wash your hands thoroughly. 3. Embrace the health spectrum. A strong immune system is your personal armor. Prioritize your physical health through proper sleep, balanced nutrition, regular exercise, and maintaining emotional resilience. A healthy body handles biological stress much better. Conclusion: the endless journey. By the end of our conversation, my sister's frustration had turned into quiet understanding. Science has not failed us. Rather, we are learning that science is a journey, not a final destination. We will never truly win a permanent victory against viruses because they are dynamic, evolving parts of our natural world. They are playing the game of survival just like we are. But we have something viruses do not: the ability to learn, to cooperate, and to plan ahead. Our scientific advances give us the tools, but our collective choices determine if those tools succeed. By respecting nature, investing in global health, and acting responsibly in our own neighborhoods, we can ensure that humanity stays steps ahead in this endless biological race.